Hi, my name is Kevin Sorbo. In my career as an actor, I've had the opportunity to play the part of warriors and heroes like Hercules. But I've always recognized that the true heroes of our nation are not actors, but the real warriors are those who make the greatest sacrifices to protect our freedom. Those warriors face challenges that many of us will never experience or understand. I watched firsthand the sacrifices my brother made as he served in the U.S. Army for more than 20 years. Throughout my career, I've always tried to find ways to give back to our veterans and service members. Our nation is blessed with some amazing service organizations, but over the last few years, there's been a growing excitement about the work the Warrior's Journey is leading. There are a lot of organizations that raise awareness for warrior needs, but TWJ is doing something even better. They are literally saving the lives of our warriors and veterans. For me, it wasn't enough to hear about the Warrior's Journey from a distance. I wanted to see for myself and meet some of the Special Forces personnel that TWJ has been helping. So gentlemen, what made you go into the military service? When was the call? How old were you when you said this?
I was 19 and a half, just a knucklehead from California. Didn't have much else going on, doing all the same stuff I was doing as a kid, doing it as an adult. It was going to lead to problems. And I chose the military, and then the world went and got itself weird in 2001. So we ended up making it an entire career.
Very cool. You're up.
Yeah. So graduated kind of last couple of years, kind of got in a little bit of trouble, and I was homeschooled whenever 9/11 happened. And I go, yeah, military's for me. So I joined in 08.
What branch?
Marine Corps. Started off as a machine gunner for 6 years, and I did another 6 years in MARSOC, and then ended up getting hurt, got out, retired, living here in Springfield ever since.
My call actually started about a freshman in high school. Our church recognized all the veterans one day, and they did a really cool event. But I remember seeing those guys stand up, and they were just so proud. And I've always loved my country. So I started looking at the military and decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to challenge myself. They had just opened it up to where you could actually go into the military with a contract in hand to go SEAL training. I went out there and passed first time and made it. Wow. And so I did that just shy of 9 years. And then just for, being a father and a husband, it was time for me to transition out.
So I'm sure there are a bunch of lessons we learned in any profession. I mean, I certainly learned some in mine with Hollywood and all that stuff. So what was is there something at the top of your head that reminds you of the biggest lesson you learned?
You spend so much time with the guys on your team. Once team life is over, there's a big drop off. It's like falling off a cliff. Keeping in contact with those guys because you make lifelong brothers. It just always being there for one another.
It does. It takes a team. It was a very small group of guys, individuals, and making that transition out of the military into the civilian world, you lose sight of that, or you don't have that same access. Once you come to that realization, you have to surround yourself by other people.
I think mine's a little different. I think for me, I learned really quick that you take leadership pretty quickly. So at any given moment, you got to be the guy ready to step up and lead. And as you progress in the military, 9 years in, you have a lot of responsibility. I don't think guys recognize that when they get out, and they kind of sell themselves short. We have leadership skills, and we have the ability to do it.
As a typical non-military guy, even though my brother was in and stuff like that, I can relate to it only in my industry in this way. I don't have the dangers you guys had to do and the sacrifices you guys had to do. But you do sacrifice in a way because you're on set 12, 14 hours a day. For 7 years I did Hercules. That's your family. So I can relate to that. And when that show ended, I went through a little depression for myself because it was weird. I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like with people shooting at me from wherever. It's a whole different ballgame. So God bless you all, man.
Thank you. God bless you as well.
Gentlemen, it's good to be here. And right here in the Warrior's Journey office and continue our conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
So thankful that you could join us yesterday to do a little range day.
It was fun. Well, I'm going to kind of dive into it right away, guys, because I'm being an actor. I have played you guys in movies before. And, I get a lot of takes to make it look like I sort of know what I'm doing. The reality is the general public has no clue as to what it's like to do and be what you guys do for a living, what you have done and what you've seen. So I don't know, once to dive in and start here though, but I think it'd be important for people to really understand the journey that you guys have had actually being in the battlefield.
You know, this is a unique set of guys here, and then we have 3 different branches of special operators. I think for me, the thing that the public doesn't know the most is how hard the life is on the family. You know, we kind of have the easy job of like, we get to do all the cool training, and, you know, we get to go shoot fun guns. That's fun. And then our families left at home. I think the families are just often forgot, and that adds a lot of hardship because a special operator, he's deployed, he's in theater somewhere. He's, you know, literally fighting in wars and fighting for his life, his teammates' life. And then he's got, you know, his family back home. It's hard to disconnect from that.
I think the only place I can relate to is as my brother was Lieutenant Colonel Scott Sorbo, 23 years in the Army. So I know what his wife and his daughters were going through because he had hardship duty. And I think for 2 years, he couldn't even see them. I can understand only through him, but I still can't understand what it actually is like. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't any military pretty much the highest divorce rate of any job? I mean, I hear it's very high.
It is very high. You are split between 2 100% commitments, and you can't fulfill that. So you're making sacrifices, and usually that does fall on the family because you do have a job to do. You have a mission to do. And depending on lengths of deployments, could be 4 months, could be 6 months. I did 3 15-month deployments. That was very, very trying.
15 months each.
Yes, it was definitely very trying. My wife was in the military for 3 years. She got out when we were both about to get deployed. She opted to get out. She took on the bigger portion of raising 3 young kids, mostly by herself, at least half time. And then again, when we're back, we're training when we're not deployed. I'm sure you guys had similar experiences.
I think one of the biggest things that people don't understand is like, there's the deployment side, but then when you're back, when you're training up for a deployment is just as strenuous as a deployment itself sometimes. Like you'd be gone for weeks on end, come back, and then go again. I think on my last workup, I went to Australia 3 times before I actually deployed just to do joint training exercises. And then I go and deploy. And same kind of situation, like I had my first child, and by the time she turned 3, I had been around for maybe 8 months, and she didn't even know who I was. You get off the bus and you show up at battalion, and your kid's just standing there and not running and giving you a hug, and you have to like start the whole process of being like, hey, I'm your dad, you know? I think that's one of the biggest things when you talk about divorce rate. There's things that need to be addressed, like to strengthen your marriage, but it's like we're so worn out that we just want like peace and quiet. You know, it's like, I don't want to talk about this right now. That's where things get brushed under the rug, and then you end up in that divorce state, or we have 85% of special operations guys end up divorced.
Yeah, that's, I was reading like it was a 9%. The next thing I kind of want to know, I think a lot of people want to know as well, is the transition you have to make, because people forget about that as well. But you have lived it. You're fighting for your life, and you're fighting to defend the country, and then you come home and boom, and all of a sudden it's like, what do I do? I got that with my brother as well. So I don't know who wants to go first, but talk about that transition.
I had been injured and I was going through medical separation, med board, to be retired essentially. And typically they were like, that process is going to take all this time. You know, you'll have time to prepare and get out of the military. And it took like all of 2 weeks. And they were like, all right, you're good. You're out. Do I come back home? Like, what does that even look like? And so it's like, well, you're going to have to just kind of figure it out on your own. And I didn't know what to do. I ended up going into the mortgage industry. I didn't want to be a loan officer. Like, that doesn't sound enjoyable to me. It was something I had to do out of necessity or as a responsibility to my family. Honestly, I felt worthless. Like, here I am at this terrible job where I come home and I hate it. I wanted to be in special operations for so long, and then to achieve it, and then to get hurt, and then to get kicked out without any sort of assistance and come back and start a job, one that isn't very fulfilling.
We put our identity in our job, and 85-90% of the time, guys are willing to divorce and leave their family to focus on the mission, which is not right, but that's how much it means to us. The day you go to scan your badge to get into the building and it doesn't work, you kind of lose a piece of your identity right there. The number one phone call we receive at the Warriors Journey right now is identity crisis. Mm-hmm. Guys don't know who they are now. They don't know what to do. They don't have a mission in life, and it just starts a downward spiral. I remember getting out of the military thinking, and I did it for my family. It was putting so much strain on my wife and kids, and so I said, I'm like Gabe. Like I would have done it my whole life, but I knew I had to be a husband and father. I remember leaving saying, I'll never be able to replace that community. Nobody's going to understand me. I'm not going to have good relationships in the civilian world because nobody's going to relate with me. And so I kind of just did very similar. I was doing commercial real estate. I remember sitting there today, I started having friends committing suicide. And I remember sitting there just thinking, is this all there is to life? And am I going to end up being one of these guys? I have no identity at this point. So for me, it took leaning into my faith, really building that relationship and starting over, regaining my identity in that.
God isn't there to prevent things from happening to us. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a roadblock. What do you do when you get to that roadblock?
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest message we want to get through when we have clients call in at the Warrior's Journey. It's just, hey, there is mission, there is purpose, there is identity. You're always be proud of your service, always be proud of the uniform, but don't let it define your life.
I'm aware of the suicide, and it's amazing to me that so many people, they're aware of it. I think the general public, I hope, probably isn't aware of it, but you look at those stats that come out and you look at the people that got to go through those things. It's like quicksand. How do you handle that crisis? How do people find a way to fight through that? Who do they go to? Obviously, they go to what they're doing here.
If it wasn't for that person, I didn't get this resource from anybody else. And I had been to the VA before. The experience there was subpar. I don't think they understand. There's no one there to like listen to them. If I come out and I say like, I'm struggling with this, people are going to perceive me as being weak. They're like, you know what? It's better for me to just do this, take my own life so people will remember me than rather live this like shell of a life that I'm living now. I'm so glad that somebody did that for me.
Why doesn't the government do that?
More times than not, the response I get from guys is like, as soon as they say something to you, as soon as they call you, they're like, oh, sorry to give you that problem. They feel like a burden. We feel like we have to control our own problems. And when guys say, I'm like, hey, you are not a burden. Like, that's what we're here for.
Right.
And I think that's what it is. I think I don't want to burden someone else with my problems. I think at the Warrior's Journey, we have a unique spin on it of that we are faith-based and we are giving an opportunity to introduce the most powerful healing he can receive. The VA is not ever going to say that. They're not ever going to give the guy the faith-based approach. And, that's what really separates Warrior's Journey is we know the long-term healing.
So you're the longest here in this group, 22 years. I mean, what was the transition like for you?
So I ended up getting a job, finished the cohort, transition, move out here to Missouri, and also at the same time trying to figure out who I am in this new world into civilian life. Got my little piece of the pie, still got my family together, and just feeling like asking the universe at this time, what's next? On paper, I look great. Why do I feel this way? It's when the Lord came into my life, because where I thought I was going to transition and move out to the woods and I wanted to be isolated, that was absolutely the enemy working. God said, I have other plans for you. Months later, I'm in walking through a parking lot with my son. This big, beautiful red truck pulls up. And then I see in the back window, he has a Special Forces sticker and a Ranger sticker. And so the guy gets out and I introduced myself and said I like the stickers. And he told me, his sons were SF or Special Forces and Ranger. So I introduced myself, said the same thing. And then he started telling me about the Warrior's Journey. Have you heard of the Warrior's Journey? I was like, no idea what's it about. And he told me about helping veterans transition, find a purpose. And then so we went from a handshake to a big hug right after that. Immediately signed up and went through their 12, ended up being 13-week reboot. And that was so phenomenal to just open up, be vulnerable, be naked to the truth of who we are and what we've been through. And I think that's why we lose so many guys. And that's why it takes warriors like you guys to tell our veterans what their purpose is, what our purpose has been our entire life. And maybe we didn't know it. I felt like I was walking alone and doing it by myself. And I definitely couldn't have reached for any kind of life preserver because I was dead.
That's an amazing story. And you know what? And that was Kevin's truck, right?
That was Kevin's truck. Yeah.
And maybe had you not already had God whisper in your ear that you wouldn't have even noticed that truck. How did it affect each of you? And why is it important to be aware of what Warrior's Journey is doing for people that come from your situations and your backgrounds?
Yeah, for me, man, it really realigned my purpose. I tell people all the time, and I'm a connector with the Warrior's Journey, but last year I had a friend of mine actually take his life, and it hit me It was a really big impact on me. And it was like the third individual that I knew in the past like 2 months. So I remember waking up and I go, man, I have the Warriors journey around me. And like, here are all these people that are missing this opportunity. So now I get the opportunity to be in this space full time because I understand the importance of this. You know, it's a Saturday and I'll be on the phone for an hour and a half with another Warrior. It's the most amazing hour and a half that I get to spend because I know that there's life being poured out into somebody, and rather than lies that the enemy try to utilize to isolate us. We joke around, we always say, we go, if we can have an impact in just one more person's life, because tomorrow is not guaranteed, whether that's even sitting here and sharing our stories, like this is the most important mission that we have, that you can find purpose. And it's like, I'm going out to defeat an enemy still have a purpose. It's the greatest thing to pour that out into other people that don't get to experience that on a daily basis. So
there are a lot of ways we can show our appreciation to the men and women who serve. But when a warrior finds themselves in a moment of real crisis, we owe them more than a thank you or a pat on the back. They have sacrificed so much to serve us. How can we not give something sacrificial back to them? The Warriors' journey is just at the beginning of its impact, and I know they will never give up on a single warrior in their care. But they need supporters like you and me to join them in this cause. As Americans, how we care for our veterans is at the core of who we are. No man left behind, whether on the battlefield or in the battles they face here at home. Together, we can save the lives of warriors and their families, and we can show them the deepest forms of our appreciation.